TBA. Together again.
Okay, good morning. My name is Alma Beach. I was a band director at Mountain View High School in the Clint District for over 20 years. And I've only taught band. I taught band in all three levels. It's a small school, ranging from students from 35 to 70 students in the band. My experience, I hope that all the stuff we're talking about will help you. But my partner here, I'll let him introduce himself.
Well, good morning. My name is Eric Gray. I'm currently the band director at Gilmer High School in Gilmer, Texas. We're a small town. We're a 4A, but we're a smaller 4A. I've taught in Gilmer almost my entire life for the last 31 years. I taught 1 year at Nacogdoches and then moved to Gilmer. Have really enjoyed it and loved the community, and it's a little unusual to stay in one place that long, but it's a small community, it's a smaller school, and that's kind of the title of our clinic this day is quality over quantity, the advantages of teaching in small rural schools. The advantages, and that's kind of a weird title, is because sometimes people look at teaching in a small school as being a little bit disadvantaged, whether it's location or staff or resources. But I believe that we can make the best and an exceptional experience out of any location or really any experience. It's just your mindset. When I first started teaching in Gilmer, there were 2 directors. Now we are up to 5 directors. And so some of you don't have that luxury of having that many directors on staff. So I got the full spectrum. I started with just 2 of us, and we've worked very hard to get the staff to where it is today. And fortunately, our administration, our community is on board with that. They want a really good band program, and they will do what they need to do to support that. So we've created an outline of things that work for us. And I'm going to let Alma kind of get us started.
Okay. Well, to bounce off on what you said, I started off by myself, no assistants. And finally, I had one assistant, which worked real well. So, and again, the community was very, very eager to have a good band program as well. Okay, so we're going to start now with the first item is the warm up. I believe in a very good, solid warm up. Without a warm up, my band wouldn't have been able to do what they were doing. I used the Foundations for Superior Performance book, which has a lot of good things. That was really the only book that I used. And I know there's other method books, which we used also. I used part of the Fussell book, but whatever works for you is really good for anybody. You just have to know your kids, but you really have to establish a good warm up. What do you think, Mr. Gray?
Absolutely. That's and warm up kind of has the implication that it's really not very important, or it's just something we do at the beginning of class every day to get to the real work. But I know you guys do, and we use the warm up as the real work, whether it's scales or technique or intervals or chorales or tuning. Everything we do in warm up is going to take place in the literature that we're working on in the classroom. So we look at the warm up as something very serious, and we take it very serious. We use the blue book, that we call it, and contained in that book is everything that you need to have a successful program. But you do have to work on it. So our thought is that it's not just a warm up. We're not warming up just for the sake of warming up. We're warming up and we're getting some work done, probably the most important work, because you don't really work on those things in the music. The music is a result of working on that skill set that you had there. The method book, long tones, of course, super important. Lip slurs, woodwind technique, woodwind fingers, percussion technique, scales, and practice with the scales. Not just, let's run through our scale page, but let's practice intervals. Let's practice intervals of a second. Let's practice intervals of a third. Let's practice arpeggios on those scales. And then, of course, the chorale is super important too. So many things can be learned in that chorale, as those other things that we've mentioned as well. But again, we feel that the warm up is the work that gets done, and then we just carry that work over into the music that we're playing.
Absolutely. And what I used to do with the lip slurs, the brass would do certain lip slurs depending on their ability, because you have a variety of lip slurs. So depending on where your students are, you can interact all at the same time. You can put there's a clarinet set 3, option 3, that warm up that I use a whole lot, and the flutes with the overtones. And what we also did, we learned a scale a week. So we learned also not just the major scale, but all 3 minor scales along with it. And if it gets more advanced, what you could do is on those exercises like scale patterns 1, one day would be major scale version. And then on Tuesday and Thursday, we would have minor scale version. So it's just to teach the kids to embrace minor scales as well. The note here is that I would tell the kids, well, music starts off by a scale. You have to know that scale. It's based on that scale. So it is vital that they know their scales. But that's what we did. Mm-hmm.
Yes, agree. Super important, super important. Not just warm up for the sake of warming up, but warm up for the sake of getting in the things that you want to teach the kids. And of course,
Foundation.
at the very beginning of the class. And so that's sometimes when their attention span is great.
Yes.
Second is planning. And in a small school situation, planning is super, super vital. You never want to go into any rehearsal or any work or any performance without a plan of how that's going to go. What are your expectations for that day? But even back it out, there's a philosophy that begin with the end in mind. And what do you want to accomplish at the end of the year? What do you want to accomplish it by the end of the month? What do you want to accomplish by the end of the day? And then that backs up into your planning. What are your expectations of your students? We involve students in the planning as well, because we want their input, we want their take, and that also helps them create an ownership for the program. I came up with the goals, I came up with the plans, and I remind the kids of this a lot too. Said, you are the ones that have to do the work. We're going to tell you all the right things to do. We think anyway, we hope, but you are the ones that have to execute. What about if you're working with another person? When I go to the junior high, I'm the assistant. And so I expect them, the junior high directors, to have a plan. And how does that involve me? Is it something as simple as grabbing my trombone and sitting in the trombone section while we read a new piece of music? Or is it taking the trombones out and doing a sectional with them, or taking the low brass out, or taking the woodwinds out? What do I expect? So I encourage our staff members to have a plan for the year, for the month, for the semester, for the day. And of course, you have to be flexible. We always have a plan A, but not too far away from that. We also have a plan B in case plan A, and then even plan C and plan D. And especially this last year that we're just coming out of, flexibility is huge as well.
Right. And I coming out of COVID, I know in the border towns of Texas with Mexico, I'm sure we experienced no classroom with our band students. And so this is a new game, how we're facing. We're going to, some of us took a big hit. So planning is essential. And be realistic with it. And like how he would, Eric was mentioning, have the end game in mind and how you're going to get to it, how you're going to execute it. And make sure that we have calendars for the kids, because they're going to be, if most of my kids were running the school, they were in all the sports, they were in all the clubs and in band. And so we have to make sure that we can give all these other organizations and our administration calendar, so that they know exactly what we're doing, what our plans, so that it's not a surprise, and we can make things work out a lot more even without any bumps and getting into disagreements. So when you're also planning, what kind of trips are you going to be planning? Are you going to be going out of town? Are you going to be with small schools? You're going out of town to go play some other team. Make sure that you have meals already set in place. Bus requests within a month. I know that that's how they're getting a little more tight with that kind of situation. So be aware of when your deadlines are. And also, if you're going to go out of town, what hotel are you going to stay? Find a hotel within plenty of time, as soon as you find out what you're going to do. And Eric, I don't know if that's what that's what you had something to do with that, planning with that, because I know I had to plan it. Then I gave it to the administration. At least I had already letting them know what hotel we wanted to stay. So it was easier for them. Okay, and an itinerary, be as specific with itinerary, especially with parents that are always wanting to know where their kids are. Okay, you want to add any more to that?
Yeah, we try, as far as the calendar, we try to get the calendar out for the next year by April of the previous year, just so the kids can have it, parents can have it, the other coaches, just like every other typical small school, all of our kids are involved in a lot of activities, and we really like it that way. That is one of the unique things about small schools, that the band kids are ag kids and they're athletes, and they're involved in the culinary, and they're and some even have part-time jobs. And so as much, and we'll talk about this one next, as much communication as you can give to the people that you're sharing the kids with. That way we don't come up at the last minute and discover that there's a volleyball game on the same day as marching contest. Or if there is, then we can go ahead and get a plan or two in the works
Right.
to resolve that conflict. And we never, ever look at the kid and go, well, you'll just have to decide. If it's important to you, you'll never put the kid in between. Always, as adults, resolve those conflicts without involving the students. That's just a bad situation. We don't ever want to be in that situation. But organization, and I'm not saying show up at school at 7:30 in the morning and go, okay, what do I want to do today? Again, look at that plan that you have for the week. Look at that plan that you've mapped out for every day. Sometimes you can't do this, but I would encourage you to have the next day mapped out before you leave the previous day. So again, you're not trying to think. When I was in college many years ago, they had this saying, it's easier to think on your seat than it is on your feet. And so sit at your desk and make those plans and lesson plans, and make those phone calls that you need to make, or foresee any problems that may be coming up, and just be organized, have a plan, work that plan, have those other plans ready just in case something goes wrong with your plan A.
Right. What I used to do, I had such a long drive, I would reflect on the entire day during my drive, what happened, what good, what I need to fix, and I already had my day set for the following day. Try to reflect on what happened. I think that's your best tool, is reflection. What did you miss, or what didn't get done? Because I know lesson plans can change even by minutes, within the time frame, depending on where you are. You said about calendar. I have a huge calendar that I usually would ask those, like Herb Jones, who are in charge of the gowns, the graduation gowns. They have a wall calendar. I don't know if they still do, but I had a wall calendar that was maybe 4 feet by 6, and I had all my days. It had 12 months, and I planned out my whole year. Um, Put everything, every detail. My kids were able to see that. I gave them a copy of their own, but a smaller version, of course. But I found one in Amazon that you guys can use. It's an erasable calendar, and it works wonders for me because I'm the one who needs to see all the deadlines. I can't remember everything all the time. If I see it, I give myself plenty of time for deadlines and things like that. What a performance is, maybe some volleyball games, other things that kids are involved that is going to impact our days also. So that's vital that you should do that. But that's a suggestion. The other thing is what we do with organization, we also assign students, make them own the band as well, put the monkey on their back as well. I like to have a clean, organized band room, and I can't function with it being chaotic. So I assign certain students to clean up, organize, pass out music, pass out things, announcements. If they need any announcements, I usually do them. But if I forget something, some of my students can remind me. Just certain things like that. Emails as well. Emails to your administration and teachers, just to remind them of things, because they won't always look at our calendar. That's vital. Other things, make make your band room workable, where it's safe and it's not chaotic and causes confusion or unorganization. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Eric?
Absolutely agree. The way your room looks or the way your room is set up absolutely sets the tone for the rehearsal. If there's chairs just kind of scattered, if the kids have to come in and get set up, if there's stands knocked over, if there's clutter everywhere, then it just kind of sets the stage that this is a little bit disorganized, and you don't ever want to go into a teaching situation with that perspective. Now we all have our closets, where we throw things at the last minute, but we close those and we keep the door locked. And at some point in time, usually now during the summer, we get in there and we get those things cleaned up.
Absolutely.
You mentioned something about the calendar, and we do at the beginning of every class, the kids will come in and they have gotten into the habit of just reading the front board. We have two big whiteboards at the front of the classroom. The warm up, the emphasis, the stuff we're working on, whether it's a marching band or concert band or solo and ensemble or whatever, that's going to be written up in there. So when I first started doing that, the kids would come in and say, "Hey, what are we doing today?" And I would say, read the board. And eventually they got out of the habit of doing that. So they just now know that they come in and they read the board. They have an idea. If it's 2 weeks before marching contest, we're probably going to the practice field or the stadium to work on marching. If it's 2 weeks for concert contest, we'll be inside either sight reading or working our contest music. But very detailed plans. We also have another calendar, and this is one that we started several years ago. The kids at the beginning of the year, it's one of those big calendars. We just get an extra one. The kids write their birthdays on their calendars, and at the announcement time, we have a large TV in the room, and it's got all the announcements that kind of flicker in and out. And we, wish that person or those kids a happy birthday that have on there. Again, it's just kind of a social aspect. But we do want to incorporate good, strong student leaders, just because they need to take ownership. They need to, well, number one, I think it's a life skill that they need to know is how to be a leader or how to work within an organization. They're not always going to play their flutes and clarinets in band class, but they're probably always going to be in a situation where they need to know how to work together or how to communicate or how to resolve problems. And so, and meet with those leaders, Don't just establish a leadership team. We call ours the BLT, band leadership team. And, meet with them, because a lot of kids don't know how to do that, or they have an idea of what leadership is that's a little bit skewed. And so we have to teach those kids how to do those things, and then implement that. And of course, the email and the Remind 101. And I would avoid texting students just, over a texting server or whatever that's called. But, Remind 101 is a great tool for that, or emailing the parents. And again, communicate. Go into the principal's office almost every morning, and we have a brief visit, and he, asks what we're working on. And I tell him, and we just kind of communicate to get the day started, so he knows exactly what we're working on and what we're doing, those things. And we try to communicate that as well to the parents. Sometimes parents get an email from the teacher or a phone call from the teacher, and they immediately think, oh, what's wrong? What happened? What did my kid do? So we like to get those coming frequently, and they become more of a good positive thing, and less so that they don't have that stigma attached. Well, I haven't heard from my band directors or my kid's band director in months, and then all of a sudden I get this email from them. It can kind of set them a little bit apprehensive. And email teachers about your students. One of my pet peeves is that I'll get an email the morning that students are going to be gone. It's 7:45 in the morning. These 20 kids will be going to this competition. And I'm like, man, I wish I would have known, because, we set a chair test or whatever they say.
Exactly.
And with band kids, that can be a large chunk of your school. So I always, at least a week in advance. Of course, I send the calendar to all the teachers. That doesn't mean they always look at it, but but I like to send, whether you're going to have the band kids are going to be out of your class Tuesday. Well, that way the teacher knows not to schedule a test for Tuesday, or if they have, move it up or push it back. Just communication and knowing the people, the secretaries, the custodians, the assistant principals, athletic director. Those are the folks that are involved in making the school run, and knowing where things are and how to get things done. And so just develop good relationships and repertoire with those folks, just keep those lines of communication. Somebody, again, once told me that when you felt like you have communicated adequately, you have just started communicating. And so I try to put that on all of my communications. Have I felt like if I feel like I've done a good job communicating, chances are I've just scratched the surface. And so I need to go above and beyond. And I would rather get criticized for trying to communicate too much than not enough.
And with COVID, I had to learn a lot of new things because I'm not very computer savvy by any means. But there is a Google Calendar that you can have, I think, added onto. I use the Band app as well to communicate with my students. It has more room, but our district is using also Remind. But that's a good way of putting up the Google Calendar, because it's movable. It's user-friendly, where you can add for the parents to see. It would be good that if you have a good kid who knows how to do a website, or utilize those kids to help you with it, and they can let them do all the little party stuff, birthdays and whatever. I try to let them have the fun on that. But you're right. And I'm a violator of emails and not doing enough. But that's another thing that I had to learn, how to communicate with parents with email. And it is vital. And you're right. And with parents and teachers. It was a good thing. I don't know, COVID, it was a bad thing, but it was a good thing. It was a good thing that I was able to be introduced to a lot of resources on the internet. So that's the next thing. Oh no, we have also instrumentation. That's the next thing. Instrumentation. We need to keep good inventory on all our instruments, working condition and non-working condition. Make a plan to get one of your music stores to pick up your instruments. Whoever repairs them, have a set day for them to pick up and deliver. That way you know exactly when to expect things to happen. So I don't know how about you, Eric. I use a local store, 2 local stores, and they're very good about that. And plan ahead also of what instruments are starting to wear out, which ones need replacing, and start looking. You just can't go on a whim sometimes, because then what little that I usually ask people who are professionals who in my area who know the instruments very well. They can help me with that. And that's a good source of information for you to look for. What do you do, Eric?
Yeah, same thing. We have our music store that we deal with. We have a road guy that comes by every Monday. If we need anything, or if we have an instrument that needs to go into the repair shop, he'll pick that up and he'll bring back anything. So usually once a week, we're in contact directly with our music store. Instrumentation on a small school levels can sometimes be a challenge. You don't have enough players. Maybe there's an oboe part and you don't have an oboe player. Maybe there's a bassoon part and you don't have a bassoon player. Maybe there's a French horn solo and you don't really have a French horn soloist. What do? You have to you have to become good at arranging those parts for other instruments.
Absolutely.
Your saxes can cover French horn parts. Your trombones can cover French horn parts. Your baritones or low clarinets can cover bassoon parts, and so you have to kind of get creative. And again, that's where it's good to have somebody that's kind of walked in those shoes. Hey, what do I do here? The only reason you won't get help with some of these issues is if you just don't ask, and that's kind of dangerous. And I remember being a young director and just saying, I'm just going to figure this out myself. Well, it's a difficult road, and so there's a much easier way. Somebody has figured this out. Somebody has probably walked through the problem that you're experiencing now, and ask. There's a lot of good, smart people out there that have already invented the wheel, and so no reason for you to do that again. And on those instruments, whether it be uniforms or instruments or a new band hall that you've outgrown or whatever, plant those seeds early with your principal, with your superintendent, with your administration. Don't just walk up or schedule a meeting and go, I need $150,000 for new uniforms for next year. Chances are that they don't have an extra $150,000 just sticking out of their pocket there to give it to you. But if you start the process, number one, you won't catch them off guard, and number two, they'll appreciate the fact that you're looking down the road in order to see what the needs are. Your administration wants your program to be successful, but they want everybody to be successful, and they have the position of organizing the entire school and controlling the budget and making sure that everybody stays within budget. So they are on your side, but there's this built-in mechanism for them too to keep everything balanced and to make sure that the money is spent the right way. So big purchases, make sure you have a plan for down the road. And again, if you're missing a vital part, you really want to play this song, but it's got an English horn solo. Well, not many small schools have an English horn. What are you going to do? Or some of these new people that have just crazy percussion. We've got 19 percussion parts, and you've got 4 players.
Exactly.
What are you going to do in that situation? And always ask. Somebody out there knows how to do it.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And along with the instrumentation, which I didn't touch on that, with working with the middle school, let them know what instrumentations instruments they need to start so that we can have those kind of instruments later on in the high school. It's good to communicate that and see if we can push those things as well. But you're right about that. We need to always give our administration heads up on what we need. Good communication can help. It did help me this year. So, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, as he said. So that's vital that you let them know your needs as well. And produce a good program so that they could see it's worth it too, and maybe give you what you need.
Right. And one more note on the instrumentation. We try to have a balanced instrumentation at every level. We don't start 25 saxophones and then when they get to high school, scratch our heads as to why we have 25 saxophones in the freshman class.
Right.
Because if you want an English horn in the high school, you have to start an English horn in sixth grade. And so our goal is to have the entire band balanced, whatever that band is, sixth grade band or seventh grade or eighth grade. Now, we're not always 100% successful, but again, you have to begin with the end in mind. What is this sixth grade class going to look like? Are you going to have 30 percussionists and 30 saxophones and 2 flutes and 3 trumpets and 1 trombone player? Well, you can't scratch your head as to why this is weird when in high school, because it was weird, honestly, when they started out in the sixth grade. So again, sixth grade is just a microcosm of the big organism. So just keep that in mind.
Right. And good musicians, good kids who will work hard will be, if you ask them to do one, switch over to an instrument, more than likely they'll help on knowing that there's a need. So look for those kind of students too. But the next thing we have is resources. Okay, so we're not alone. You have to know what is out there for you and what is attainable for you. We have good music stores here. We have good colleagues that have a lot of good band programs. Retired colleagues that will be more than willing to come and help you in your during your band time. If you have a successful retired colleague, call on them. And if you don't have a very good budget like what I was used to, well, take them out to eat or bring a breakfast burrito for them, especially if you have them in the morning. I know that I did that a whole lot because we didn't have we didn't have a big budget, and so sometimes the kids pitched in and gave a gift certificate, depending on who was going to come over and rehearse and conduct our rehearsal. But for now that we're recovering from COVID, I'm using good former students, to help our band program get back on its feet again, and some college students to come and help us. So those are my resources. Eric, I know you have other information about that.
Yeah, we absolutely. Former students, especially when kids graduate and they go off to college, they usually haven't started college. So they're all around when we start summer band, the end of July, beginning of August. And so utilize those guys. And they're usually here around mid-December. So those all region and those area tryouts, good way to get those guys involved. As a small school director, you are the private lesson teacher or teachers. We also kind of have a system here where, for lack of a better term, it's you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. So somebody will call me and say, hey, can you come over can you come over to our Monday night band rehearsal and just, catch the last 20 minutes and just kind of see what you think? And so, we communicate that all the time with the folks that, if we're within driving distance, and there's several small schools within driving distance of Gilmer, so we can be there in 20 or 30 minutes, and vice versa. One thing we thought we needed to mention was that Phi Beta Mu is band fraternity that utilizes a mentoring program. And so I'm not sure if many people realize that or not, but if you go to the Phi Beta Mu website, and they'll have a tab there or a link that says mentoring program, and you can request an experienced band director to come to your school to observe for the day or to clinic your band. And it's totally free of charge. It's a service provided by Phi Beta Mu. That would be a tremendous asset if you lived, some of these schools in West Texas are incredibly spread out.
Yes.
And okay,
Absolutely.
about that.
Yeah.
Feel like you're on an island out there, and that's one of the things. But coming to TBA and TMEA, making connections and going to clinics, such as this one, can give you some ideas and some contacts. Again, make those contacts, make those professional affiliations.
Right.
ATSSB, the Association of Texas Small School Bands, an organization founded specifically to
Yes.
benefit
Small schools.
small
Yeah.
schools. And so
Yes.
lots of resources there, lots of people there. There's class representatives that you can call and you can make contact with. And
Yes.
I personally know those guys, and they will do anything to help. And so as a advocate of small schools, there are some organizations out there, TMEA, TBA, Phi Beta Mu, ATSSB, even UIL.
Yes.
Will step in. So there's lots of help available. And again, just let me caution you about the individual mindset that I can figure it out. Yes, you can, but your students will benefit if you reach out to some other folks here.
Very true. Very,
One,
very true.
one of the things that Alma spoke on was technology, and she made the comment she's not very computer savvy. I understand. We went to high school and college without the benefit of computers, and so everything was
Yes.
pencil and paper. But man, that thing has taken such a leap here in the last several decades, and I have come on board, before COVID. COVID forced our hands with a lot of things. And
Yes.
one is this Zoom meeting that we're doing right now.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
that nature. So, we already talked about the Remind 101, the band app. Tonal energy is an incredible tool that we use, and the kids know, sight reading
Yes.
factory, music theory, even in forms of communication. So technology is there. It's a little scary at times, especially for older folks like me. But just embrace it. Wouldn't you say so?
Yes, because you know what? I had to learn it whether I liked it or not. You had to jump in, and there was no and ifs about it. You had to dive in. I got really good with using smart music. Oh, smart music was a life preserver for my band and a game changer. All the kids, our district was able to help our students get their own account, and so that helped with the process. The other thing is that I use Flipgrid. Flipgrid was incredible for testing evidence that the kids, where are they at the point. I didn't get to see many of my kids at all, except during Zoom. Well, we use Google Classroom. And I didn't want to bore everybody by listening to individuals, and everybody's just waiting for their turn. So what I did was use Flipgrid, and they were able to upload their performance that I was going to grade, and it's still there. They can see their first entry to the last entry and can see if they've grown any or how it was measured. That's something that you can probably, I'm still going to use that during class time. I will, it won't take up my time. I'll use rehearsal time instead of having to test kids. Now it's Flipgrid. And that makes it so much easier. So if you haven't looked at that, look on the Flipgrid and see if you guys can test it out. Very helpful, very helpful. And Smart Music. Smart Music was really good for my kids to stay practicing as much as they could. I know that we're all distracted and they didn't want to be on the computer too long, but I'm still going to use it, definitely. And going along with some of those technology, some helpful websites. Wow, there's some, of course, Smart Music. I was able to do that, but and Eric mentioned TBA. There's a lot of stuff on TBA, TBA, ATSSB, from past conventions. You just have to be a member to open up the archives. But there's lots of archives that you could look there and reach out to other band directors across the state. Who knows? You might be in the same situation with somebody else that's struggling with something, and you might get an answer you didn't think about. So Eric has a lot of information. He gave a lot of kudos for those people who are willing to help. ATSSB, yes, a lot of good folks there who know the struggles of a small school band. Look for them. Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned some other websites, Eric, that were new to me that you showed me.
The NAMB, National Association of Military Marching Bands.
Absolutely.
We have lots of resources there, videos, step-by-step instructions. If your band, marches in that style, military band website, the Air Force, the Marines. There are actual resources they can send you free of charge. I think the Army Band has a DVD series. I don't know if anybody uses DVDs anymore. But about starting each instrument. You may be a single band director in a school district, and you played trumpet your whole life, and you took flute class. But how do I start a flute class? What do I do the first 3 weeks of flute beginners? And there's some steps there for you to kind of follow. When I first started, I had all of our beginners in one classroom in one period. And that was not ideal at all. But if I did have a separate flute class, I'm not sure I would even know what to do to start them. And so there are those resources available. And so you can find almost anything on the internet. Most of it good, but some bad things too. But most of it really, really good. So if you just want to do a Google search, you can find all kinds of resources, especially on those military websites. And, we mentioned ATSSB and Phi Beta Mu and even UIL. One thing we didn't mention was, your band webpage. What does your band webpage look like? I don't know how to do a web page, but I have technology people that work at school, and I have students that are, really, really good at that, and really even looking forward to starting careers there. And so you have to embrace the technology as much as you may or may not want to, and just stay abreast of it. With TMEA, I will find a clinic, a technology clinic, and up to date what's happening now here in 2021, about to be 2022, just so that I can at least hear some of the terminology and see some things, so that if I see it in use, I'll have some kind of knowledge of that. So utilize those kids. It's the generation that has grown up with the technology, and so they're very good at it. And so utilize those guys to help you, and ask them questions too. I'll hear them talking about something, when TikTok first started, the kids were talking about that, and I was like, what is that? And so they told me, and so now I don't really use it, but I know. And so they're up to speed. My drum major last year said, Mr. Gray, that's drip. I looked at him and I went, is that like coffee? What is it good? He said, oh yeah, that's good. And so you have to the kids that you're teaching know what these things mean, and you kind of need to know what they mean too, so that you can relate. And you're not up on the podium talking about something that you don't really know what you're talking about and trying to relate with them. So get with those kids, see what they're into, figure out what they're going through, and it really is all about them. All these things that we have discussed on our outline here
Mhm.
are for the benefit of the student and for the benefit of the individual teaching those students. And so we
Right.
hope that this has been helpful to you, and we'll have our contact information that you can send us an email or a phone call. We'll put that on the handout here as well, that you can emphasize and
Right.
see. And hopefully,
Another website we forgot. Sorry, Eric. YouTube. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
of course.
YouTube has. I forgot about that until right now when you mentioned TikTok. But YouTube has an immense amount of resources, even for music theory to knowing every instrument, because I know I did have to look for something like that for beginners. Um, yeah, that's another one that
Right.
you can
Yeah.
look into. You're right. Yeah, there's a lot of with COVID, we had to learn a lot of technology and embracing it. But you're right about students. They're the ones who are going to, they know how to drive it. And I get educated every single time when I ask, what's this? So, uh, the kids will take care of you.
They will.
I don't have Instagram, I don't have TikTok, but I'll let the kids. I have good kids who can run it, trustworthy ones that
Yeah,
will
that's
preserve
important. Trust.
good ethics online and on whatever technology we can use,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. The other thing about that YouTube is that our all region etudes are now there with a
Yes.
real live person. It used to be we had cassette tapes of those
Oh,
etudes.
yes.
Then we got fancy with CDs, and now everything is on YouTube, and there's a real person, and that person is explaining the piece, and this person is playing
Yes.
the piece at a practice tempo, and so that's really good. I added that to our outline just now, so
Oh, yes.
that's going to be on.
Okay. Yeah. So those are some of the things. We don't have question answer now, but I know in live, if you do come to the convention, we'll have time for Q&A. I hope you learned or you got some information that can help you for this coming year or any other time. We're with you, and we understand the struggles and the successes that come. And if you need any help, you can call on us anytime. We'll try to help you. We don't have all the answers, but we can try to guide you where you can get some answers.
Absolutely.
But
We'll figure it out if we don't have the answers, or we'll ask somebody that does.
exactly.
We hope this has been helpful, and look forward to seeing you either in person at TBA or down the road somewhere.
Yeah, and we wish you a very healthy and successful next school year, then 21 and 22. So go forward and embrace the challenge.
Right. Always a challenge. Some years more challenging than others, but
Yeah.
all right. Well,
All
thank
right.
you, and have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
All right.